Karlovy Vary is a humble little town nestled upon forested hills and flowing streams. The air is fresh and cold. In the breeze, there are the fragrances of forest, pine trees, and fallen leaves. The beautiful Tepla River runs right through the middle of town, and little bridges cross over it here and there. There are hot mineral springs too, and people come from all over Europe to renew their health and spirits in these waters. I was born in this wonderful place in 1935. At that time, it was still Czechoslovakia. The home where my family lived is long gone, of course. Today, when I tell people my story, I always talk about Karlovy Vary first, not because it's where I was born, but because that beautiful place is where I would have had a childhood and even grown up had it not been for the war. It took me over 40 years after my liberation from Theresienstadt to be ready to share my story. And when I finally did, it was with the least likely group of people I ever could have imagined. A group of German high school students whose grandparents may very well have been Nazis. It felt strange, and of course, I was nervous at first, but somehow, finally sharing my memories about my childhood and my family, some of them very painful, was good for me. And I think it was good for the students too. We both had a history to face and to share. The German students were visiting Israel as part of a Twin City program. This was in 1985 or so. I do recall that some people in our community were very opposed to this visit. They didn't want Germans in our town because they had suffered terribly at the hands of the Nazis. But the municipality of Nof HaGalil, which is in northern Israel where I lived, stood its ground. I was happy about that. My thinking was that these are the new times with new relationships, and we must try to move on. I became involved with students' visit because I was teaching Israeli folk dancing at the community center. So the people at the municipality knew me, and they knew that I spoke German. Maybe not perfectly, but good enough. So they asked me to go along with the German students as they were sightseeing and translate for them. I thought it was a great idea, and I agreed right away. It sounded fun. The students, their principal, and I traveled together all around the beautiful places in the Galilee region. We went to the Hula Valley, which is a very big nature reserve, where millions of migrating birds land every year. And we went to the Golan Heights. We also showed them all around Lake Kinneret, which is known in the Bible as the Sea of Galilee, and took them to places like Tiberias, Capernaum, and the Mount of Beatitudes. I am sure it was a trip of a lifetime for those students. I loved it, and I loved getting to know them as we traveled around this land that I love. In some ways, it was good for me psychologically to interact with Germans of new generation. A couple of days before the students were supposed to go back to Germany, the principal of their school, who had heard that I was a Holocaust survivor, asked me if I would be prepared to talk with the students about my experience during the war. I was a bit nervous about it. I had traveled with and gotten to know the kids a little bit, but I had never told my story to a group before. I didn't know how it would make me feel, but I thought, Well, why not? Jump into it, Gidon Lev. I simply started at the beginning and told them my story.